Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. We got another one from Caroline Leavitt. This was from a couple of days ago, but the information is still relevant, and it's a short one, so that's cool. I just wanted to stop by and say, hey, listen, I have to do some reactions to what's going on. She says a few things. I haven't really listened to all of this going through. I just know it's a short one, but she did say one thing at the end somewhere, not at the end, but somewhere in there while I skim through this that I want to react to. So we're going to just let her speak, hear what the questions are, and I'm gonna just put my little 2 cents in it, just as a regular, ordinary citizen. And that's why I like what I do here because it's just me being an ordinary, tax-paying, voting citizen to say, hey, what do I think about what they're saying to us? And what we could say back, whether it makes a difference to anybody out there or not. The truth of the matter is, it's YouTube is great because it gives us an opportunity to release what we have on our minds and share it with anybody who wants to hear it. So I go live with these things, small things, as opposed to just doing a video, just in case somebody catches me live, I catch them live, and we could talk about certain things. So like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button on the way in. Doesn't matter how long you stay, just hit the like button. Do me a favor, hit the like button. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. And that's all you have to do. We're not talking about money here. We're just talking about, hey, listen, you know what? I like what you have to say, so here's a like button. I don't like what you have to say. Well, hit the down arrow. You know what I'm saying? But hey, just engage. That's all. Without further ado, and one more thing, without further ado, let's hear 11 minutes, 12 minutes of Caroline talking to these folks and see if we have any real reaction to what she has to say. Okay, so here goes right now. Right.
As Press Secretary of the White House, Karoline Leavitt, speaking.
Here at the White House, as you all know, we'll be traveling to Michigan tomorrow. I know the president's really looking forward to it. He's going to give a speech at the Detroit Economic Club, in addition to touring a factory in Dearborn, Michigan, that produces F-150s. And my understanding is Ford is ramping up that manufacturing and also going to be hiring more American workers at this facility thanks to President Trump's policies. So he'll be doing that tomorrow and talking about all of the great economic news, which I would be remiss if I did not point out to you all. We have mortgage rates falling below 6% for the first time in years. Thank you, NBC, for this very fair and honest headline. But this is the truth, and these are the facts thanks to President Trump's economic policies. So frankly, they're hard to deny. And then again, we have the Washington Examiner out this morning with gas prices. The national average has fallen to $2.79 per gallon for the first time in nearly 5 years. So these were two of the biggest pain points for the American people, as you all know, under the previous administration. Gas prices, mortgage rates, interest rates, all things that this administration is committed to seeing fall. In addition to prices, we know core inflation is at its lowest point as it has been in 5 years. And so these economic policies are really coming into fruition now that we're in 2026. And we'll be seeing more tax cuts into the pockets of the American people later this spring as well. So it's all good news on the economic front. And I know the president looks forward to talking about that tomorrow in Michigan. I'll take some of your questions today.
Caroline, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Caroline. On Jerome Powell, President Trump has mentioned on multiple occasions that the administration could probably bring a lawsuit against him. Did the president ever direct DOJ officials to open an investigation into Powell?
No.
And can you reassure the American public that his longstanding criticisms and public comments about Powell had nothing to do with the investigation?
Well, look, the president has every right to criticize the Fed chair. He has a First Amendment right, just like all of you do. And one thing for sure, the president's made it quite clear, is Jerome Powell is bad at his job. As for whether or not Jerome Powell is a criminal, that's an answer the Department of Justice is going to have to find out. And it looks like they intend to find that out.
Caroline, two more questions on the Fed for you. Senator Tillis is promising to hold up all Fed nominees until this legal matter with Jerome Powell is resolved. What does the president make of that?
I haven't spoken to the president about Senator Tillis's comments. I'll leave leave that to our legislative affairs shop to figure out, and I'll let the president speak on that himself.
Caroline, did President Trump reach your policy?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That the Fed should operate independently from him.
The president has made it quite clear he thinks Jerome Powell is bad at his job, and the president has made it quite clear, as have many economists, by the way, that interest rates should be lowered, and they should have been lowered a long time ago.
But does he believe in the independence of the Fed, Caroline?
He has, and he said that many times.
Has President Trump
Bloomberg,
seen
go ahead.
Jerome?
Thank you, Caroline.
Jay Powell should go to jail if he lied about
Does the president?
You
the
just,
president-
Eamon, you're yelling out a question that's being asked in a different way, but it's the same exact question as we just answered, and I just answered it. We'll let the Department of Justice determine that.
Venezuela.
Has President Trump?
Strikes off the table in Iran, and does he believe there's a potential path to end the protest there without military action?
Well, I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many, many options that are on the table.
Oh man, you know what, man? That was a great rant, and I was on mute. I'm glad because y'all didn't want to hear what I had to say, so I'm gonna have to cut that shit out. This whole thing with Iran is a big freaking mistake, and let me just leave it there. We cannot go into Iran, and it's a good thing I was on mute. I'm gonna fix it when I get off of this thing. I'm telling you.
For the commander in chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately. And I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary. And nobody knows that better than Iran.
Yeah, but again, I don't care what he thinks about Iran. It's good to have the information, but we can't strategically think we're going to overthrow their government without casualties, without getting wrapped up, without causing a situation where we're killing some innocent people. And then all of a sudden now the enemy of their enemy is going to be the United States. And these people from Iran will say, okay, you know what? We can't have these gringos, these Americans from the West, taking over our country and then dictating how we're going to live. And then all of a sudden, they're going to forget their internal squabbles, and we're going to just be the ugly Americans on the outside. This is a huge mistake. If he goes into Iran, kiss the midterms goodbye, kiss the presidency goodbye. And we're going to put those people who are for gender mutilation of children, the wokeism, putting people in jail like in Europe for free speech. It's going to be a disaster. And the midterm might be the end of everything you guys work for if he goes into Iran.
Steve Witkoff talking to the Iranians at the moment.
I understand that Steve Witkoff will continue to be a very important player in diplomacy with respect to Iran. I think the last week has shown that the president made the right realistic assessment of what needed to take place in Venezuela at this moment in time. And the interim authorities and Delcy Rodriguez and her team have been very cooperative with the United States and the president and his team, as evidenced by the massive energy deal that the president was able to cut with the interim authorities, their commitment to release Venezuelan political prisoners, which we also saw last week. So we've seen a great level of cooperation, and the president expects that to continue.
Now, Venezuela, on the other hand, I absolutely agree with. That makes sense. We can't have the Chinese and the Russians and anybody else controlling the oil to the south of us in the southern hemisphere. It's better to have a U.S.-friendly government in Venezuela sitting on that much oil as opposed to having our enemies have it. So that's a no-brainer. Not only is it a no-brainer, getting Maduro out of Venezuela it actually was supposed to be bipartisan. Right, there's enough video of Trump and every other not Trump, but Obama and every other Democrat saying, up to and including Biden, that we got to get rid of this guy, bounties and everything. And so when Trump actually does it, we know that the opposition to that is not only hypocritical, it's a lie, just because they hate Trump. So this was a good move. This one was a good move. Going into Iran, it's a bad move. And so we got to pick the moves more judiciously. President Trump really do. Can't turn the government back over to those ultra liberal communist freaks. We just can't do it. And if we do, they're going to do the nuclear option on the Senate and get rid of the filibuster. And the country will never be the same. They're going to let in all these people from these third world countries. America is going to continue and become the ashtray of the world for the worst people. They're going to be paying our tax dollars to house these people, and we don't have the money to house ourselves right now. So it's just crazy stuff. So he's got to be judicious, and he's got to shut up.
Go ahead. Sorry?
And how soon does he want to see elections in Venezuela?
I think right now it's still too soon to say, and I don't want to set a deadline for the president.
What's the meeting this morning with Marco Rubio about Venezuela, and what can we see this week on Venezuela? More meetings?
The president meets with the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor daily, sometimes multiple times a day, and so it was on a range of topics, as it always is.
Does President Trump expect on Venezuela? What practical steps would the White House like to see those interim authorities take to stop Iran and Hezbollah from operating in the country, and have those authorities done anything on that yet?
I think right now the main correspondence with the interim authorities is really focused on obviously ensuring stability and prosperity and continued cooperation with respect to energy. As you all know, there was a very powerful and big group of oil executives who were here at the White House on Friday, and so continuing to iron out some of these energy deals. We also have made it very clear, the president's made it very clear that we don't want to see any more jug boats sailing from Venezuela towards the United States of America, which we have not, frankly, in the last week. President's also made it very clear that only oil tankers that are approved by the United States of America will be flowing from Venezuela, and we will continue to seize ships that are stateless or that are not approved for commerce by the United States. Kevin.
Before we get to the next question, let's go back to something here. Is it this one? All right. Besides the ad hominem attack on MAGA, you know what? But one of the great things about this country is that of the 77 million people who voted for Trump, only a small, maybe half of those people would identify as MAGA. The real battleground for our politics and ideology lies in the middle of the independents. The independents are growing leaps and bounds, right? People will stop identifying as Democrats and stop identifying as Republican. They might lean one way or the other, but a lot of people are gravitating towards calling themselves independents. So the one question that you asked about the money is, I would like to know the same thing. Now, I don't know whether he cuts a $2,000 check for everybody as a show of good faith that that money is actually there and he could give it away. But in general, do they ever prove to us that they got any money in the government? I mean, as regular citizens, Joe Blow paying taxes and shit like that, how much control do we really have over where our money is going? I mean, we see the fraud that the government of Minnesota allowed. Forget about the Somalis being the people who've done it. That's secondary. They allowed the infrastructure there allowed the social programs to be, gutted by fraud, and we could say that's just going over the whole country. Red states, blue states, anybody who's controlled, there's some level of fraud going on, and we still haven't seen any perp walks of the people who need to go to jail. So, I mean, I'm with you there. I mean, it's frustrating. If we had the money over the last 20 years that's been defrauded from the United States, none of us would be talking about this shit, man. Our taxes would be reasonable. Our property taxes would be reasonable. The money in our pockets would be better. We'd have some money for real programs to help American citizens out because it wouldn't be flowing outside of the country. So, and that's a bipartisan issue, man. People, people are corrupt. So now we can only look at narrow policies that can make the country better, right? Democrat or Republican, you can find something to hate on both sides. But what are your policies? What's the policies? For me, it's easy. They're closing the borders to stop the bleeding and then cleaning the wound by getting all of the illegal aliens out. I don't care if they're rapists. They got to go. But if you're here outside of compliance, you got to go too. Or get your day in court and prove why you should stay. You don't have to. It's a crime to come to the United States illegally. And don't let the Democrats tell you it's not. It's a crime. Section 8, 1325, and 1326. Just read it. Just read it. So you don't have to be a murderer. If you're here out of compliance, you're subject to deportation. And that's it. And there's no statute of limitations on that. None. You know, it's the law is the law. And Congress put that together. It's just been bipartisan. Anyway, so I just thought people have the right to be pissed about certain things, but we don't have to hate each other for it. That's the point. You know, I'm not all in on Trump, man. He's making a lot of mistakes right now. You know, his character is flawed, but so are so many other people. But I'd rather that than the borders be open. I'd rather that than them mutilating children. I'd rather that than having having criminals run across the neighborhood without any, with the crime law is all bad, right? With cashless bail and shit like that. So, I mean, hey, listen, you got to pick your poison. But if you want, if you think it's okay for men, running around in women's spaces, then you vote for that shit. I won't.
Is the objective in these discussions with Iran still complete denuclearization, or what else is the president looking for as he, engages in these discussions?
Well, he's made it quite clear he certainly doesn't want to see people being killed in the streets of Tehran, and unfortunately, that's something we're seeing right now. Kelly.
Caroline, Archbishop Copeland is here today.
Yes, I'll get to you. Don't worry. What, Kelly?
Iranian officials today, and has President Trump spoken with Elon Musk about the internet situation there as well?
I understand he has spoken to Elon about that. Yes, he talked to all of you about that on the plane last night. What was your first question, Kelly?
Has Trump spoken with Iranian officials today? Could you give any updates on those conversations?
I haven't spoken with Mr. Witkoff today about that, but we can certainly get you an answer.
Archbishop Copeland is here.
President
Trump is meeting with Archbishop
It's of great
Copeland.
interest to you, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and they may be speaking as we're speaking. Can you give us a preview of what they'll be talking about, or will there be a readout as well after they're done of what they discuss?
I can see if the president will provide you a readout. How's that?
Sounds good. And also, President Trump, has he seen the video put out by Jerome Powell on Sunday? And if so, what's his reaction?
That video was put out after I was with the president when Air Force One landed last night, I believe. So I was no longer with him when that video came out. I don't know if he's seen it or not.
Does the president have a dateline or a timeline on Greenland?
No, he has not set a timeline, but it's definitely a priority for him. She's asking about Greenland, and I think the president was very clear last night. He said that he wants to see the United States acquire Greenland because he feels that if we do not, then it will eventually be acquired or even perhaps hostily taken over by either China or Russia, which is not a good thing for the United States or
the Greenland situation, right? I'm kind of in the middle with that one, right? The Greenland situation, right? When he talks about taking it over, there is no way to be aggressive and taking over a piece of land one way or the other, right? Somebody's going to die. Isn't that correct? How do you take it over? Now, I understand that NATO, Europe, and the NATO forces are thinking about working with Denmark to find a way to expand NATO and get NATO troops and all of that kind of stuff in Greenland as a compromise between the United States trying to own it and it having the protection it needs right up front from our adversaries. Now, the president, right, I think he should shut up about what he's going to do. Right? I mean, why just throwing this shit out there as a salvo out. Now, he's a president. He can do what he wants, but it sounds stupid to me. Either you're going to do something or you're not going to do it. If you're preparing Greenland to be invaded, well, I could just tell you that I don't know if that's going to go over that well. To one end. And we got to also say, part of the fact that China and Russia haven't taken or tried to annex that land is because we have a base there. Right, we have a base there. They would have to attack that base. They would have to declare war on America to get that land. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they haven't done it. So I think that weakens his justification on why we have to take it over. We could just expand that base. And then he talks about, well, you don't want to be a renter. You have to own it. Well, I don't know, when people start hearing somebody say we gotta own your shit, it's crazy. It's just not gonna go over well. And I'm not even sure if he can do it, right? I mean, I don't see how he could actually annex another country without having approval from Congress. Now, going over and getting a dictator out of, Venezuela is one thing, but you ain't annexing a goddamn another country without Congress, even if they were all Republicans, by the way, without approval from Congress and the Senate. Because it seems that kind of act of aggression can't be done by just the executive branch. It just absolutely cannot be. We're talking about overstepping every fucking bounds that we know. Especially when you're talking about occupation and that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of it is just words. I mean, he's not the first president to talk about Greenland, but he's actually saying too much. I think he's saying too much. He really is. I mean, come on, man.
For Europe or for Greenland as well. Let's not forget, it would not just be in the best interest of the United States, but perhaps it would be in the best interest of Greenland as well, to be part of the United States.
I remember some of the stories about, people telling black folks the best thing for you was to be a slave, or else you would have been kept, climbing trees and eating bananas in Africa. So it was better to come over here and, work and pick the cotton so you could get civilized by the white man, right? I mean, how are you going to tell people in Greenland who's living that kind of Reykjavik life, free and happy and shit in these small communities, it's better to be a part of the fucking craziness that we have going on here in America? Are you kidding me? Gotta tread lightly, man. We gotta tread lightly.
I can't even finish my answer. Everybody's screaming. Go ahead, Monica.
What did the president mean the last night when he said that Iran had called to negotiate and that there may be a meeting that is set up?
I mean, what else do you want me to explain by that?
Who would be a part of that?
There was an official from the Iranian government, I believe it was reported earlier, that reached out to member of the president's very close team, Special Envoy Witkoff, expressing a far different tone than what you're seeing publicly.
Karoline, about the meeting on Thursday with Maria Corina Machado?
Has been front and center in response to this ICE video. Is the president satisfied with her efforts there and all of her media interviews?
Yes, 100%. President Trump and I actually spoke about this last night, and how Secretary Noem is doing a phenomenal job. Not just securing the border, which she and the president did together in record time, but also in defense of the brave men and women of ICE who put on a law enforcement uniform every single day to protect our communities and to protect all of you and every American, regardless if they are Democrat or Republican. ICE is doing a very important job to remove illegal alien criminals from our communities. And I think it's very striking that all weekend long, you had agitators and violent American citizens out in the streets of Minneapolis protesting. Protesting what exactly? Apparently, they are protesting the removal of heinous murderers and rapists and criminals from a city that I can guarantee you, when you look at the list of the illegal criminals that ICE is removing from our communities every day, not a single person in those protests and not a single person standing here that works in the mainstream media in Washington, D.C. would want those individuals in your neighborhood, in your community, around your children, and around your families. Wow. ICE is doing an incredibly important job that's not just important to our homeland security, but our national security. And this administration will continue to stand wholeheartedly by the brave men and women of ICE, including that officer in Minneapolis who was absolutely justified in using self-defense against a lunatic who was part of a group, an organized group, to interject and to impede on law enforcement operations. And it's disgusting what we have seen from the left. And I think that it just shows you where the modern day Democrat Party stands today in protecting illegal alien pedophiles and rapists and murderers over law-abiding American citizens and our brave men and women who serve in law enforcement.
I mean, before she drops the mic on that, right? The messaging by the Republican side of the House on ICE and immigration has been bad from the beginning. Because I completely agree with everything she said. Okay, I think though, well, with most of what she said, with the recent killing of the lady, they should have just said, "Hey, listen, we're going to have a full investigation," and should have put somebody who is from the state on that that team one way or the other, they still would have been able to control the situation. One of the things they did wrong with the messaging is that they didn't come out and say, well, here's the statute as part of whoever their spokespeople are, not just Holman, somebody who can really congregate a verb and speak eloquently. They should have had a showman. They should have had a person who is equipped to talk from their standpoint, with a full court press. If you're here illegally, whether you committed a heinous crime or not, you are subject to deportation. And here's the statutes that say that. We're going to go after we're going to prioritize the hardened criminals. But if we catch you out of compliance, we're going to give you whatever due process you're required, but you're going to get deported. And that's all they needed to say. Like Abrego Garcia, he's here illegally. He is here illegally, no matter what you say, whether he's Trendale Laraga or not, he's here illegally. Right? So instead of trying to make him into some kind of hardened criminal, they should have tried to deport him based on the fact that he's here illegally, whether he committed a crime or not. And then sending him to El Salvador and Kristi Noem going down there and showing men subjugated and looking like slaves in the cages and showing that to the pussified American, citizenry. What did they expect to happen? That was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Just like showing people the death chambers, or that's why we don't show executions. Because more than half the people can't take that shit. We have so many Americans, especially these liberal women, who would let people just come here and just hang out without any papers, no matter what. They don't care if you're a killer or not. We're this great American diaspora and everybody come. We're the ashtray to the fucking world. It's not like it's going to be free. We got millions of people we're paying for, and they ain't putting shit back into the pot. So the messaging by the Republicans on this. Now, here's one more thing about sanctuary states. They say, Article 9 or whatever, the Constitution, 10, right? 10 of the Constitution allows states to be open to have, whatever relationship with the federal government that they have, right? States' rights against federal rights. But there was one other time when the blue states or democratically led states were in complete opposition, to the federal government, right? There was one other time, complete operation, and they were in the South at the time, those democratic states. And they wanted to succeed from the union, So, and it sounds like these other states are in so much opposition to the federal government, like they'd rather run without the government, except we got to give them our money. But that last time the democratic states were against the federal government, millions of Americans died. You know what I'm saying? And so we're setting that shit up right now. They were protecting slavery back then, and we got these fucking guys from the blue states and cities protecting millions of criminals because of ideology. And we got citizens being used as pawns to stand in front of ICE and say ICE is disruptive. You know why we don't see those same disruptions in red states? You don't think red states don't have any illegal aliens? Because law enforcement in the red states are cooperating with the federal government. And they're being able to get those illegals out in points of where it's less danger, inside jailhouses, inside courtrooms, in controlled berms to get them out of here. But in the blue states, we got people standing in the way. And a lady got herself killed for standing in the way. And, so the messaging by the Republic is bad. Then the blue states are in open opposition to the federal government. They are committing sedition. Sedition. Because they're going way past the 10th Amendment. So anyway, that's my opinion. You guys have your own. Mic drop for Karoline.
That
She's
was
right.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt speaking to the
You know,
media, answering some questions on a range of topics. That has now concluded. We are going to step away for a break. I'm Stephanie Quinn. After that, Mike Page continues our live coverage. Stay with us.
Yeah, so that's that, man. Listen, you know what? We gotta kind of understand where we're coming from with a lot of this stuff. And I don't know, man. It's one America. It's just one America, right? It's just one of us. It's not a whole bunch of America. It's just one America. And if we're Americans, we need to see our country succeed. And right now, man, we're on a bad path, man. Your ideology is killing us, and it's only going to get worse. And we can't let our country fall apart based on people wanting to keep people here who don't belong here. Now, listen, I worked for the government before. If anybody out there worked for the government, I'm going to say this again. I said it on another live. We take an oath to the country. We take an oath to the country that we will protect the country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And a country like ours is not going to be invaded and crushed by an enemy with bombs and bullets and all that shit. Our country is going to fall from the rot within, from traitors within our ranks, from the Mondanis of New York putting that bullshit and trying to put that bullshit in office. We're not communists. We're not communists. You know, we don't want to live under a communist social regime, right? Every one of us out there, I don't know you people out there in fucking YouTube land, but I bet you most of you guys who earn the shit that y'all have don't want to give it out. You don't have, we don't have buyer's remorse or survivor's remorse. If I'm an engineer and you're not, and they pay me more than you, that's the way it should be. If I'm productive and you're not, I should get more of the spoils than you do. I could be compassionate and say, no matter what I do, I'm also set aside stuff to help my fellow man. Right? I mean, that's the way it is. I don't care if you're a communist or a capitalist. We're going to always have the poor amongst us. But telling the people the reason why they don't have money is because of the rich, and that's the only reason, is a goddamn lie. So we're going to see the big experiment in New York with a communist running the company. Listen, he's excluding everybody except immigrants. He just tried to hire an immigrant who's illegal. He's not even doing background checks. So anyway, and yeah, I'm just talking out loud, but like I said, diamonds, pearls, silver, and gold. We have to. What's really important to us? I think that's the key. What's important to us? I think that's what we need to learn. Anyway, so I'm gonna leave you with this. And it has nothing to do with this thing other than, riches ain't everything, but, compassion is more important than all that stuff. And we need to have some, but we need to have the right people in charge. Is Trump the right guy? Not based on his character, but do we have is his policies better than the policies that were going before him with Weekend at Bernie's Biden? Now, absolutely, yes. It's just that the man is flawed, like so many of us. So anyway, I got to calm my nerves before we get out of here. So let me how many minutes I was here. Not too long. Anyway, I'll leave y'all with this. And we'll just go from there.
Of the night, I find my peace. The shining stars remind me that I'm free. Diamonds shimmer bright, but they are my gold. Silver and gold can't fill an empty soul.
on pain, marriage, politics, and sports. Thanks for showing out tonight. Over and out. Hit the like button, by the way. Subscribe.